Hey everyone, this is my discussion response to post 2 and Peter Singer's questions on right and wrong. So he begins the videos by posing this scenario of a drowning child in a pond which you can save. You are under no, threat of being harmed in doing so, just inconvenienced by ruining your new shoes. And of course everyone he asked said yes, helping the child is the right thing to do. To which he would ask them, then how's that different than not sending money to go feed a hungry child instead of using that money to buy a suit or something? And when I first heard it, I was taken aback a little bit. I was like, that's a good point, Is it morally irresponsible to not spend money in a responsible fashion to help someone less fortunate instead of, buying something you just want? It's different if you're buying food for yourself. Obviously, you should be under no obligation to buy food for someone else before you buy for yourself. But luxury items, instead of buying a new car, just stick with your old one and send that money to charity. And I thought about it, and I think the distinction is in the child in the pond, I am directly responsible for helping that child. There's no systems keeping the child in the pond. It's simply the child fell in the pond and I alone can help them. No one else was around, it's just me. Whereas opposed to his situation of sending money to go help a feeding child in Africa, me sending $10 is not helping that child in the long run. Yes, he may be fed for 2 days, but after those 2 days, he's still poor and he's still hungry. There are systemic issues in place which I alone can't solve. I think that's where government agencies step in, or nonprofits. They're the ones who should be held morally responsible for the well-being of those people, which I personally can't help myself. I heard an analogy one time. If there's a house on fire and you're the only one with a bucket of water, you're morally obligated to help put that fire out. But on the flip side, if you don't have a bucket or any tool, you shouldn't be morally responsible to help solve the problem. The person with the tools should be. If a house is on fire, a random person on the street shouldn't feel responsible to go save someone in the building. That's a firefighter's job. They have the tools. Which I think is a distinction that should be made when it comes to big systemic problems like that. Instead of like a gotcha moment, you would help a child but you still buy things. Like, yeah, if I saw a homeless person on the street who needed $5 to eat that night, my $5 directly feeds that person, but me donating $5 to an agency does almost nothing in the long run to help solve systemic problems. And I think it also takes into account the proximity. The further away a problem is physically, kind of makes it feel further away morally and just psychologically. It's my guess. I don't know for sure, but and it leads into the question of, can you think whatever you want of right or wrong? Yeah, you can do whatever you want. If you want to kick a puppy, you can do that, but that doesn't mean you should. You should think of the ramifications beyond just kicking the puppy for your own amusement. Like, the puppy would be harmed, obviously. And sticking with the animal analogy, his question of, is it okay to eat meat if it's not morally defensible? I have a hard time with that one because I enjoy eating meat, and I have wrestled with that question in the past. I try my best to eat as little meat as possible, but I still like it. I indulge just because I want to. Now, that may not be morally defensible, but at the same time, I don't think everything needs to be morally defensible. Me deciding not to buy that pack of ground beef, that cow is still dead. Now, in the long run, sure, those small transactions may benefit the systems in place that torture animals. But I think the more morally responsible way to do it would be hunt for your own meat if you want to eat it. I hunt. I feel not as bad about eating the deer I killed myself than a pack of ground beef. Um, and that, I guess that also raises the question of ethically raised animals. Is it less wrong to eat a free-range chicken than it is to eat a chicken that was held in captivity all of its life? I don't think so. I mean, it's still a chicken at the end of the day. If anything, I feel less bad about putting the chicken that was miserable out of its misery as opposed to the chicken who was just living his life. But I think, you know, I'm under the opinion that all morals and ethics are relative. So you can think whatever you want. It's just thinking about the further ramifications. If I want to eat meat, I should think about the animal's welfare, the welfare of the ecosystems and climate from all the greenhouse gases meat production produces. I should think about those things, but I'm still allowed to say, I thought about them. I don't care though. I don't think if you think about those things, you have to agree that those are wrong or right. You can think whatever you want, but you should still think about them, which I think is a good point. I think most of us, when we buy a pack of ground beef, we don't think further beyond eating it. We don't think about the climate issues that pack of beef caused. You should think about it, but then it's up to you how you feel about it. If you think that's not worth it, then put it back. If you think it is worth it, then eat it. But yeah, I think even that, I mean, the climate from beef production is a systemic problem. You know, regulations should take care of that, not me deciding to eat or not eat the beef. So I think the scale of the issues is what you should consider when making choices like that, and if you should feel morally responsible. You know, if you support a war, for example, and 10 kids die in a bombing, are you as morally responsible as the person who hit the button to drop the bomb? I don't think so. But I think, everyone has to make that decision for themselves.